What kind of God is this that would mess with Abraham in such a, what seems, cruel way? Asking to sacrifice your only son to God. And if we look at Abraham's life and his relationship with God, it seems to have been one trial after another, a roller coaster. Abram and his wife Sarai lived in Ur, in the land of the Chaldeans, modern-day Iraq, Iran, Middle East. And God appeared to Abram and said to him, after they had made their life there, after they had lived there for years and years and years, God says to him, pack up everything and move. Move to a different land. Move to the land of the Canaanites on the shore of the sea. You take everything, live among foreigners, and build up a brand new life for yourself and your wife. And Abram does that. He makes the journey to the land of Canaan. And he establishes his new life there among these foreigners. And then, after I suppose Abram and Sarai were planning on retiring, kind of enjoying the rest of what they had of their long, long lives, 3 messengers come and say, you are going to have a son. And that son is going to be a great nation. And new things are going to happen with you, Abraham. And there it is. Once again, Abraham has to start over. Everything is re-beginning. Now he and his wife prepare for this son, which is a great joy, but also for them it must have been a great change in their lives. And today, that son that he was given as gift is asked to be sacrificed. God, what are you doing with this poor man? What kind of God are you that would desire these kind of things? Well, in order to answer that question, we have to take a step back and look at the people that Abraham is now living with. And we see that the Canaanite people there practice a similar ritual amongst themselves. They sacrifice their children to their false gods. They would burn them on altars to placate the wrath of the gods, to find favor with their gods. And so in some sense, here is Abraham in the midst of these people, and God asks him to show the people that he too is faithful, that he too is a believer in God. And so Abraham does the same thing that these foreigners do. He takes his son up the mountain to sacrifice him. But it's not what God desires. God does not desire Isaac to die. We see in the end how God stays the hand of Abraham. It was never God's intention to see Isaac die. But what Abraham is being asked to do is to become a sign for the people amongst whom he is living. Abraham, you must be a sign, and now show these people what God, the true God, really wants. He does not want the death of the children. He rather wants life. And so Abraham, by obeying the will of God, becomes a sign to the people who do not know God how to live, how to be in relationship with God, to forsake their old ways and to do and be something new. And of course, the Father would not ask Abraham to do what he himself would not do. And we see Jesus, his son, who is the new Isaac, walking up his mountain, carrying the wood for the sacrifice on his back, and being offered on the altar of the cross for sin. But the Father does not will the death of his Son. He does not will his Son to die in this manner. It was not God who wanted Isaac and the children of Canaan to die. It was human sinfulness and false gods that wanted the death of people. It wasn't the Father who wanted Jesus to die on the cross. It was human sinfulness and false gods that put the Son of God to death. The Father wills life, and just as he saved Isaac and raised Isaac from the dead, so to speak, so he will raise his Son from the dead, and he will show what he wills. And so Jesus takes his disciples to Jerusalem, but on the way, they go up yet another mountain, and he shows them the resurrection. He reveals to him what the resurrection will look like in the transfiguration. And he does this so that they will carry that with them as they face the cross, as they face this terrible, terrible thing that is about to happen. Almost reminding them, showing them that God doesn't will this death. Human beings will it. God wills life. And he will give life back. And he will bring the resurrection. So hold on to this. And let that be your peace and your security as we go through this way of the cross. And so we enter the story. And our lives face crosses and struggles and trials. And we may be tempted to ask God, what kind of God are you that would allow this difficulty in my life? What kind of God are you that allows this suffering? What kind of God are you that is content with injustice and difficulty? But that's not the kind of God who desires any of that. Our God desires life. Our God desires peace and happiness. It's human sinfulness that bring all of that other stuff into our lives. And so, as you and I go through those difficult moments, we do so with head held high. We do so knowing that there is a resurrection after it. We do so knowing that God desires our happiness, our peace, and our joy. Just as Abraham was called to be an example for a people who did not know God, so Jesus came to be an example for people who did not know God. And so you and I are called to be an example for a world that does not know God. We are to go through these difficulties, these crosses, these sacrifices, not because God wills them, but because he wants us to show people how to be in relationship with him. Obedient, loving, and joyful. Abraham, obedient and joyful in the end. Jesus, obedient and joyful in the resurrection. And you and I, obedient and joyful, because whatever we go through, whether it's this Lent or some other cross in our lives, the resurrection is behind it all, and it gives us hope and joy.